Welcome back to Animal Crossing New Horizons. I'm dear darling. Shall we see what's going on in our lovely island of Fawnhallow today, where we have another late night episode. Not really for any reason this time, to be honest. I just was lazy when it came to recording. But we're here now, right here, right now. The infamous words about song whose name I don't remember. You know, it's one of those songs which I feel like back in the old days of old YouTube. Certainly there are like a few songs which are on every video, because I think there are some which you could just add by default or something. And good evening everyone. We're now in Fawnhallow. It's 11:41 PM on Tuesday, April 29th, 2025. The one that I always think about is what's it called? Lean on Me. One that goes, lean on me, lean on me. And for some reason, I very much... Did we sell stuff last time? I guess we must have sold something. Okay, fair enough. I remember there was this old video series about... Oh, I don't know if I've ever gotten 2 phone calls at once. That's actually crazy. Hold on. I think in all 5 years I've ever played, this is the first time I've ever had 2 back-to-back phone calls in Animal Crossing. I didn't even know that would be special dialogue for it. And an animation. That's actually... But you learn something new every single day in this game, huh? Excuse me. I like one we have. I don't know what it is, but we'll keep it. Yeah, I completely lost my train of thought. I was going to talk about the old Blue Tap videos, but I feel like I've lost that train of thought now. I don't know, what niche interaction to actually make specific dialogue for, which to be fair apparently is quite common in this game. It's just most of it, you know, you don't ever see because it's overwritten by like the contextual dialogue that appears. Like, I cannot believe I found... I mean, okay, maybe it's not the first time I've gotten 2 phone calls or something in this game. It's at least the first time I can ever remember getting 2 phone calls on the same day in this game. Maybe this is a point where someone proves me wrong, or they put up some old video where it's like, oh yeah, you know, don't you know, in year 2, like day 26 or something, you actually had 2 phone calls at the same time. And I was like, okay, fine, you know. I didn't remember that. And honestly, it'd be absolutely insane if you did. But yeah, I don't know, like, there's something very interesting, I think. Again, I guess we're going on a game dev talk right now, about the idea of creating something and then putting in such like a niche, very tiny interaction, which most people will never ever see, understand, realise, find. You know, you're essentially doing an interaction for the sake of almost nobody. But we still do it anyway, you know. And it doesn't go just for like making games, I think it goes for any sort of creative process, doesn't it? There's definitely times I'm sure I'm drawing a piece of art and, you know, I'm like, oh, you know, I'll sneak in this sort of thematic here and one way or another to represent something which no one will notice, no one will see, no one will understand. But you kind of do it for yourself, I suppose, right? But as part of the creative process to express yourself, that not so much allows for that, because I mean it's not exactly like it's something banned in the first place, but almost encourages it, because I mean the best motivation I suppose is to do something like that for yourself, right? The creative process is something which you inherently, I suppose, should enjoy, to the process of creating something. Otherwise, you know, it's not like it's inherently useless per se, but it sort of like flies in the face of the creative process in a sense. Unless I guess you're creating out of frustration, in which case who might say that there's a lot of different reasons to create. But I think it's a very interesting thing that it's in our nature of human creativity to also want to make things which, while inherently we like to create things to share, a lot of things don't get shared, or a lot of things you don't see necessary results of. And in this case, how many people have seen this very tiny interaction of having 2 consecutive phone calls in this game? But someone put it in. I mean, maybe you could be like, oh, it was a QA tester who did it and was like, oh, it just feels a bit weird when you get called twice. But really, like, they could have just, like, had it been back-to-back calls or something, but there's still just that one dialogue option and that one little in-between animation of the character looking at the phone again before holding it back up to their face, which is a fascinating little detail, isn't it? Reminds me of like other sort of things. Like, I'm sure it happens in music all the time, you know, songwriters or whatever, putting in the tiniest details which most people would never even begin to imagine or notice. As like maybe an Easter egg or an homage or something like that. And I don't, self-serving is the wrong way to put it, but it's very much like you do it for your own cause, like because you think it's either better that way or somehow more complete or more closer to, I suppose, what the creator might have imagined it to be. Whether that's true or not, I suppose that's kind of your mileage may vary, but that's how I like to imagine it. And I think that's awesome. Don't you think? I think that's super, super cool that humans have that sort of like innate desire to create in that sense, you know? Innate desire to be like, hey, I want to put this little detail in, I want to put just a little something in to make it more representative, perhaps, of exactly what I wanted, you know? A small motif, a small thematic, a small underlying little detail which no one will notice. And I think that's the part which gets me around the most, you know, which I find fascinating. Because you put that in fully understanding, no one will notice it, right? Well, maybe not in every case. There are some very sharp, astute, you know, fans, especially if you make something of a larger scale of creative work which has a large reach. Some people are going to be super fans, some people are going to nitpick and pore over every single detail. But you do at least understand that, like, while the rest of it is something which is public and, you know, something which is shared and going to be seen by many or few or many eyes, depending on the scale of your audience, that sort of thing is always inherently something which, you know, basically no one is ever going to notice, no one's ever going to see. It still takes time for you to do so, to create it, to implement it, and to make sure it's all cohesive. You still do it, but people still do it anyway. I think that's sort of like a wonderful thing, really. It reminds me of like it's just like, you know, kind of like with movie detail subreddit, or when people like point out like this tiny detail which appears in, I don't know, whatever media property you have going on, and it's super fascinating. But one I definitely think of, or well, not definitely think of, one that for whatever reason came to mind immediately was in My Little Pony. There is an episode, Friendship is Magic, of course. There is an episode of how do I summarize it? One of the main characters' brother is getting married, but the person that he's getting married to is essentially a doppelganger and is posing, and the real fiance is trapped somewhere, imprisoned. But there's like this very, very tiny detail where like the background music or something has the motif where it ends up with a deceptive cadence, which is a musical term, essentially meaning that the chord progression, which rounds off that piece of background music, follows. Now, this can test my music knowledge. Follows the chord goes from the 5th to the 6th at the end. Or I guess technically, I'm not sure if it has to go 1, 4, 5, 6 or something like that, but basically it's called that because it's called deceptive cadence or interrupted cadence because it sounds incomplete, essentially. But that character's name is called Princess Cadence, so deceptive cadence, you know, very much hinting to the fact that this is not the real cadence. And it gives, I mean, not only does, like, I suppose on a base level, it gives them sort of the idea of like, oh, something sounds a bit off, you know, if it sounds interrupted, like when you hear that sort of chord progression as an ending, it feels like an unresolved ending a lot of the time, I think. I try to remember, wait, there's perfect, imperfect, I forgot what the other one is, and interrupted, or cadence or something, hold on. Perfect, I forgot, because like the American terms is different from what I remember the English term, the British terms being, that we had to learn from music theory. Yes, because perfect cadence goes 5-1. A plagal, that's the other one. then imperfect goes 1-5, I think. Oh, play goal goes 4-1, and then interrupted goes 5-6. No, imperfect goes 1-2-4-1. Really? And then interrupted. Well, interrupted is still 5-6, so there we go. At least I remember that one right. And it feels unresolved. And I remember someone made like a big analysis on it, like I don't remember, it was on Reddit or maybe it was on like some random blog or something, and I was like, whoa, that's like such a cool little detail which most people would never notice, because who out there is analysing the background music in My Pony Friendship is Magic? To be fair, the fandom was quite big back in the day, so doesn't surprise me, but I mean, surely at that point they couldn't have known when they were creating, because that was like super early on in like season 2 or something, right? That My Pony ended up having the reach it was having with like an adult audience. The composer, or whoever who made that specific background music, couldn't have known that anyone, like assuming that it would have just been targeted towards families and children of their parents, couldn't have known. It would have been like, oh yeah, what parent is going to look at this with such a musically discerning eye and be like, oh, I'm paying enough attention to the plot to understand that this is an interrupted cadence, you know? Let's see. My Pony interrupted cadence. Let's see if someone's a spoiler in the song, is that it? Oh wow, it's actually still is that? Oh, maybe it's a song. For some reason in my mind, I thought it was in the song This Day Aria, but then I feel like I remember at some point listening to the song This Day Aria with that detail in mind and being like, does it actually have that chord progression at the end? And then I got confused, and then it turned out that it was actually during the background music or something. I don't know. But maybe it was in the song. I honestly don't remember. It was 13 years ago. You're gonna have to cut me some slack, but I didn't remember it exactly correctly. It's very, you know, those sort of things, those tiny things, are so cool when you find them. I mean, I'm not saying that this maybe is on the same level of coolness. You know, at the end of the day, it's just like a little animation to be like, oh yeah, just looking at the phone once again, but I think it's more the appreciation of it existing allows you to sort of like reflect on it and be like, huh, you know, that's kind of neat. It's almost, I guess if anything, it's kind of like you found a little secret, if you're the one to organically discover it, you know. And in some ways we were, some ways, I mean, I'm sure plenty of other people have seen it as well, but just, you know, it didn't really mean anything to them, right? But to me, I think, I suppose, the impact of seeing it after 5 years of playing this game is phenomenal. How can there still be something which I've never seen before, you know? Excuse me. I mean, I guess part of it sort of like, it invites a question, being like, oh, what else have I not seen? And there probably isn't much I've not seen in this game still, in a much more realistic perspective. But it is the sort of thing where it's like, I don't know, it's the possibility, the excitement of it. The difference it could be, the difference of what possibly could be, makes it sound more exciting than it actually is. It's almost like a, it's like it's doing some heavy lifting there, I suppose, of insinuating that there are other secrets yet to be found. Yeah, I wish I had more to say about it, but it's the sort of thing where, like, I wish I had like a better example to think of off the top of my head. I wonder if I've ever done that in my like YouTube thumbnail arts. I probably have, but it's not like I remember them off the top of my head. I don't exactly look at it and be like, oh yeah. It's normally something which I just sort of, as I'm doing it, I'm like, oh yeah, I just sort of throw this in and see what happens. I mean, I can have a quick look at my thumbnail arts and see if I recall anything off the top of my head. And the answer is I probably don't. But I'm sure that there's probably almost something which I put in, being like, oh, this would be like a fun little Easter egg if anyone ever wants to pay attention to this. But I cannot tell you, for the life of me, what that would be. Oh, that's true, I forgot. I did do that for Goodbye Volcano High. I made the background say Dears or something instead. That would have been a cool thing to do for Heaven's Vault if I changed the text to say something, but of course I didn't actually know the language back then. Of Heaven's Vault. I don't remember if I did anything else for some of the stuff. I think I remember in Spiritfarers, I put like a heart in the little glowy belt that Stella was wearing or something. Does that count? Maybe not to the same level. I think I did it for Stray, right? I actually think I did look up the language and I think I wrote Dear Darling or something on the sign at the back. That feels vaguely familiar. I don't know. Maybe if I just sort of drop that insinuation out, people are going to be looking for little details now in all the YouTube thumbnails, despite the fact that there probably aren't Easter eggs hiding anywhere that you haven't already found, so who knows. Anyway, on that note, I'm going to round this episode off here. So if you have been watching, thank you very much. It's been Animal Crossing New Horizons. I've been Dear Darling. Likes, comments, subscription, shares, greatly appreciated. Socials, Discord down below. Hope to see each other again, but for now, it's our farewell. So until next time. Oh, no. That's a wrong one. Where's my wave goodbye? We're going to have to find it again. Is that it? Yes, this one. Bye-bye for now.